The conference room fell silent as Ambassador Ji-Woo Park stood before the towering holographic displays. Around her, representatives from 47 different alien species watched with barely concealed amusement. The Vraxian delegate, a massive creature with silver scales and 4 arms, leaned forward in his floating chair. His name was Thonar, and his voice boomed through the chamber like thunder. The Vraxian Empire has made its position clear, Thonar announced. Earth will surrender control of 3 colony worlds, New Busan, Sejong Station, and Terra Nova. These worlds will become Vraxian protectorates. This is the price for our continued protection of your species. Ji-Woo felt her jaw tighten, but she kept her voice calm and professional. With respect, Delegate Thonar, Earth declines this demand. Our colonies are sovereign territory under Galactic Council law. Article 7, Section 3 specifically protects member worlds from territorial seizure. A ripple of clicks and chirps spread through the chamber. Several aliens exchanged glances. The Vraxian delegate's eyes narrowed to slits. You dare quote council law to me? Thonar's voice dropped to a dangerous growl. Humanity has been part of this council for barely 15 years. You are children playing in a universe you do not understand. The strong protect the weak. The weak pay tribute. This is how civilization functions. Ji-Woo stood her ground. Then, civilization needs to change. The chamber erupted in surprise sounds. The council arbiter, a floating jellyfish-like creature named Velmon, raised several tentacles for silence. Ambassador Park raises a valid legal point, Velmon said slowly. However, the Vraxian Empire also raises concerns about security in that sector. Perhaps a compromise. There will be no compromise, Ji-Woo interrupted. Earth's answer is no. Thonar rose from his chair, his massive frame casting shadows across the room. Then Earth will learn what happens to those who defy the natural order. You have 72 hours to reconsider. After that, we will take corrective action. The holographic display flickered off. Ji-Woo stood alone in the empty Earth Embassy office, immediately opening a secure channel to home. Commander Taewon Kim appeared on the screen, his weathered face showing no emotion. They're going to attack, Ji-Woo said without preamble. I know, Taewon replied. We've been monitoring Vraxian fleet movements. 3 battle groups are moving toward New Busan. How did the council respond? They offered to mediate. Ji-Woo's voice carried bitter frustration. No sanctions, no intervention. They're going to let this happen. Then we prepare for what comes next. Taewon's eyes hardened. Get back to Earth, Ambassador. I have a feeling we're going to need you here. Taewon's eyes hardened. 70 hours later, the attack began. Commander Sorahan was reviewing supply manifests when the alarms screamed to life. On New Busan, a thriving colony of 200,000 souls, the peaceful morning shattered in an instant. She ran to the command center, her boots pounding against the metal floors. Report, she shouted. Vraxian battle fleet dropping out of hyperspace, her tactical officer yelled back. 12 capital ships, twice that many destroyers. They're not hailing, they're just... The first lance of energy struck New Busan's orbital defense platform. The explosion lit up the sky like a second sun. Sora grabbed the communications panel. All civilians to emergency shelters. Military personnel to defensive positions. Broadcast distress signal to Earth and the Galactic Council. But the Vraxians weren't interested in military targets alone. Beams of superheated plasma rained down on population centers. The capital city's shield generators overloaded within minutes. Buildings that had stood for decades vanished in blinding flashes of light. Schools, hospitals, homes, all gone. Sora watched helplessly as her screens showed the destruction spreading. She could hear the screams through the communication channels. Families calling for help. Children crying for parents who would never answer again. Earth Command. This is New Busan. Sora's voice cracked as she transmitted. We are under attack. Civilian casualties in the thousands and rising. They're targeting population centers. Another blast rocked the command center. Sparks flew from shattered equipment. Through the windows, Sora could see the orange glow of fires consuming her city. Her final transmission cut through space. Tell them we fought. Tell them we, then silence. On Earth, in the deep underground bunker that served as military headquarters, Commander Tae-won Kim watched the data streams go dark. One by one, the signals from New Busan faded. The final casualty count appeared on his screen. 47,000 dead. Most of them civilians. Many of them children. Around him, officers stood in shocked silence. Some had family on New Busan. Others simply couldn't process the scale of the massacre. Tae-won let the silence stretch for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice quiet but carrying absolute authority. Get me President Hae-in Kwan. Wake up Admiral Dong-woo Kang and tell him to mobilize the fleet. Contact Dr. Yoo-jin Choi and tell her Project Ragnarok is now active. He paused, his hands gripping the edge of the tactical display. And someone get Ambassador Park back here. We're going to need her to deliver a message. What message, sir? A young lieutenant asked. Tae-won looked up at the screen, still showing the burning ruins of New Busan. That humanity is done asking for permission. Within hours, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Velmon floated at the center of the chamber, tentacles waving in what might have been distress. The Council offers its deepest sympathies to Earth for this tragic incident. The Arbiter intoned. We propose immediate mediation talks between Earth and the Vraxian Empire to prevent further incident? The voice came from Earth's delegation seat. Ambassador Ji-woo Park had returned, but she wasn't alone. Standing beside her was President Hae-in Kwan herself, a woman who had commanded armies before entering politics. You call the murder of 47,000 people an incident? Hae-in's voice was ice. You call the deliberate targeting of civilian populations tragic? Where were your mediations when the Vraxians issued their ultimatum? Where were your interventions when their fleets gathered at our borders? Thonar laughed from across the chamber. The humans squeal like wounded prey. Perhaps now they understand their place in the galactic order. Hae-in turned to face the Vraxian directly. We understand perfectly. We understand that this council is either unwilling or unable to enforce its own laws. We understand that the strong do as they please, while the weak suffer. But most importantly, we understand that you have made a fatal mistake. And what mistake is that? Thonar sneered. You thought we were weak. Hae-in smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You're about to learn the difference between being peaceful and being harmless. Earth withdraws its request for council intervention. We will handle this ourselves. You cannot act without council approval, Velmon protested. Watch us, Hae-in said simply. Then, she and Ji-woo walked out of the chamber, leaving shocked silence behind them. Back on Earth, in the war room, Commander Tae-won Kim addressed the gathered military leadership. On the screens behind him, images of New Busan's destruction played on repeat. Officers who had spent careers preparing for defense now learned they were going on the offensive. Gentlemen and ladies, Tae-won began. We have been part of the Galactic Council for 15 years. We have followed their rules, respected their laws, and sought peace at every opportunity. That ends today. The Vraxian Empire has shown us what the galaxy truly thinks of humanity. They think we're prey. He pressed a button, and tactical displays filled the room. We're going to teach them the most important lesson humanity has ever learned. His eyes swept across every face in the room. Prey fights back. The war room, deep beneath Seoul, hummed with activity. Banks of computers lined every wall, each screen showing different aspects of Earth's military machine coming to life. Dr. Yoo-jin Choi stood before a massive holographic projection, her fingers dancing through the air as she manipulated data streams. Project Ragnarok is ready, she announced to the assembled command staff. We've been running simulations for 3 years. The Vraxians use quantum-locked energy shields. Very advanced, very powerful. But they have one critical flaw. Commander Tae-won Kim leaned forward. Explain. Yoo-jin pulled up a technical schematic. Their shields operate on a fixed frequency rotation. It made sense when they designed it. Changing the frequency randomly would have required too much processing power. But our quantum computers can predict the rotation pattern. We can fire weapons that phase match their shields and pass right through. How long until we can deploy this? Admiral Dong Wu Kang asked. The old naval commander had gray hair and scars from Earth's last major conflict, decades ago. He looked tired, but his eyes burned with purpose. The weapons are already installed on 30 warships, Yujin replied. We've been preparing for this possibility since we joined the council. We just never thought we'd need to use it. Taewon turned to the admiral. How fast can you get those ships to Vraxian space? Dongwu studied the star charts. 4 days at maximum hyperspace. But sir, we're talking about invading council territory. The moment we cross into Vraxian space, we're at war with one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. We're already at war, Taewon said quietly. They just don't know it yet. President He In-kwon entered the room, still wearing the formal suit from her council appearance. She had been a general once, before politics. She understood what she was ordering. Give the command, she said simply. 4 days later, Captain Hyun-Soo Lee stood on the bridge of the Earth warship Indomitable. Around him, 29 other Earth vessels dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Before them lay the Vraxian military station Carthox Prime, a massive structure bristling with weapons. Sir, we're receiving hails from the station, his communications officer reported. They're demanding we leave immediately or be destroyed. Hyun-Soo's face remained calm. Open a channel. The view screen flickered to show a surprised Vraxian commander. Human vessel, you are in violation of... This is Captain Hyun-Soo Lee of the Earth Defense Force, Hyun-Soo interrupted. You have 30 seconds to evacuate all personnel from Carthax Prime. After that, we will destroy it. The Vraxian commander's eyes widened. You cannot be serious. This is an act of war. No. Hyun-Soo replied coldly. New Busan was an act of war. This is the response. 25 seconds. The Vraxian switched off the channel. Hyun-Soo could see on his tactical display as the station's weapons powered up. He waited. 10 seconds. 5. 0. Fire, he ordered. The new weapons, loaded with Yujin's phase-matching technology, lanced out from every Earth ship. The Vraxian shields flared brilliantly as they tried to block the attack, but the energy beams passed through as if the shields didn't exist. In 12 seconds, Carthax Prime ceased to exist. Jump to next target, Hyun-Soo commanded. We have 7 more stations to destroy before they can organize a response. While the fleet struck at military targets, Major Eun-hee Song led her team through a different kind of war. The Ghost Corps, Earth's elite special operations unit, materialized aboard a Vraxian communication relay station using experimental teleportation technology. The alien crew never saw them coming. Eun-hee moved through the corridors like a shadow. Her team of 12 operators worked with practiced efficiency. No alarms, no warnings. Just silent, professional violence. Within 8 minutes, they controlled the station. Plant the virus, she ordered. Dr. Sang-min Yoon, the team's cyber warfare specialist, plugged a small device into the station's main computer core. Lines of code flooded through the Vraxian network, a digital plague designed specifically for their systems. It's spreading, Sang-min reported, watching his handheld display. Entire sectors of their military network are going dark. They're blind. Across Vraxian space, fleet commanders suddenly found themselves cut off from central command. Communication arrays went silent. Targeting systems failed. Ships that had relied on networked coordination were suddenly isolated, forced to operate independently. And Earth's forces were there, waiting. By the end of the 72 hours, 8 major Vraxian military installations had been reduced to debris. 3 fleet groups had been ambushed and destroyed. Thousands of Vraxian military personnel were dead. And Earth hadn't lost a single ship. On the Vraxian homeworld, Emperor Thelkros raged in his palace chamber. How is this possible? They're primitives. They've been in space for barely 2 centuries. His military advisor trembled. My Emperor, we underestimated their capabilities. They have technology we've never encountered. Our shields are useless. Our communications are compromised. And they're not fighting like any species we know. What do you mean? They don't follow engagement protocols. They strike without warning. They target infrastructure. They use guerrilla tactics. It's uncivilized. Then we'll crush them with overwhelming force. Felcros snarled. Recall the home fleet. Every ship. We'll show these humans what happens when you challenge the Vraxian Empire. In the Galactic Council chambers, chaos reigned. Velmon's tentacles thrashed in agitation as representatives shouted over each other. This is unprecedented, one alien delegate shrieked. Earth is attacking a council member without authorization. The humans must be stopped. Another voice called out. Where was this outrage when the Vraxians slaughtered Earth's civilians? A quieter voice asked. It came from one of the smaller species, one that had also suffered under Vraxian aggression. Thonar stood, his massive form dominating the chamber. The Council must authorize military action against Earth. They have committed acts of war. They must be brought to heel. Velmon's voice carried a note of desperation. We have sent multiple ceasefire requests to Earth Command. They refuse to acknowledge them. President Quan has sent only one message in response. And what message is that? Thonar demanded. Velmon's tentacles drooped. She said, We're just getting started. Back on Earth, in the command center, Taewon studied the tactical situation. Reports flowed in from across Vraxian space. His forces were winning, but he knew this was only the beginning. Admiral Dongwu approached. Sir, we're detecting massive fleet movements. The Vraxians are pulling back their forces from across their empire. They're consolidating around their core worlds. Good, Taewon replied. That's exactly what we want them to do. When they gather their forces in one place, it makes them easier to find. He pulled up a new set of star charts. Prepare Phase 2. It's time to take this fight to their doorstep. A young lieutenant approached hesitantly. Commander, the Council is threatening sanctions against Earth. They say if we don't stop, they'll intervene militarily. Taewon didn't look up from his displays. Let them. We've spent 15 years watching the Council do nothing while member species were bullied and attacked. We've seen their protection firsthand. New Busan showed us exactly what Council law is worth. What should we tell them, sir? Tell them the truth. Taewon finally looked up, his eyes hard as steel. Tell them that Earth doesn't need the Council's permission to defend itself. Tell them we'll stop when the Vraxian Empire surrenders unconditionally and stands trial for their crimes. And tell them that if they interfere, they'll discover why humanity spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war before we ever left our planet. The lieutenant swallowed hard. Yes, sir. As the young officer left, Admiral Dongwu moved closer. You know this means we're truly alone now. Every species in the Council will turn against us. Taewon nodded slowly. I know, but being alone is better than being dependent on allies who won't help when you need them most. He gestured to the screens, showing Earth's forces moving through Vraxian space. Besides, we're not trying to make friends anymore. We're making an example. The galaxy needs to learn that humanity won't be pushed around. Not now. Not ever. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Hyun-soo received his new orders. His crew had performed flawlessly, but they all knew harder battles lay ahead. As his ship prepared to jump deeper into enemy territory, he addressed his crew over the intercom. We've drawn first blood, he said. But this war is far from over. The Vraxians think they can weather this storm and come back stronger. They think we'll tire and give up. They're wrong. We're going to show them what happens when you hurt humanity's children. We're going to make them remember this lesson for 1,000 years. The crew responded with determined silence. Every person focused on their task. The Indomitable jumped into hyperspace, followed by the rest of the fleet. Behind them, burning wreckage marked their passage. Ahead of them, The heart of the Vraxian Empire waited, unaware that its days of unchallenged dominance were over. The emergency council session had been going for 6 hours. Velmon floated at the center of the chamber, tentacles waving in increasingly frantic patterns. Representatives from every major species argued over each other, their translation devices creating a cacophony of sound. "Order!" Velmon's voice boomed through amplifiers. "We must have order." The noise died down gradually. Thonar, the Vraxian delegate, stood with barely controlled rage. His silver scales had darkened to an angry gray. "The humans have destroyed 16 military installations," he snarled. "They have killed thousands of Vraxian citizens. They have violated every principle of civilized warfare. The Council must act." Before anyone could respond, the main view screen activated. President Hei-In Quan appeared, her image broadcast from Earth. She looked directly at the assembled delegates. "You want to talk about civilized warfare?" Hei-In's voice was cold. "Where was civilization when your empire murdered 47,000 of my people? Where was the Council when Vraxian ships targeted schools and hospitals?" "President Quan," Velmon interjected, "the Council deeply regrets the incident at New Busan, but your response is disproportionate. You must cease hostilities immediately." Heian laughed, but the sound held no humor. "Disproportionate? We haven't even begun to match what they did to us. But we will. We will continue until the Vraxian Empire surrenders, until Emperor Thelkros stands trial for war crimes, and until every last credit of reparations is paid. The Council will impose sanctions," Velmon warned. "We will freeze Earth's assets. We will embargo your trade. We will do whatever you want," Heian interrupted. "We don't need you. We never did. You stood by and watched while our children burned. Now you'll stand by and watch what happens when you push humanity too far." Thonar stepped forward. "If the Council won't stop you, the Vraxian Empire will. Our home fleet has been mobilized, 200 warships. You cannot stand against that kind of power." Heian smiled. "Try us." The transmission ended. The council chamber erupted in chaos once more. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Lieutenant Dasom Shin hunched over her tactical station, analyzing data from the last 3 engagements. She was young, barely 25. But she had a gift for seeing patterns others missed. "Captain," she called out. "I think I've found something." Hyun-Soo walked over to her station. "Report." Dasom pulled up holographic displays showing Vraxian ship schematics. "Sir, their reactor cores use a crystalline matrix to contain the reaction. It's incredibly efficient, but there's a design flaw. If you hit the reactor with a specific frequency pulse, the crystals resonate and shatter. The containment fails." "How certain are you?" 93%, sir. "I've analyzed wreckage from destroyed Vraxian ships. Every one shows the same crystalline structure in the reactor core." Hyun-Soo studied the data. "If you're right, we could take down their entire fleet with a fraction of our current firepower." He tapped his communicator. "Get this to Admiral Kang immediately, and get Dr. Choi on the line. We need to modify our weapons." Within 24 hours, every Earth warship had been equipped with resonance pulse generators. The modification was simple, but devastating. When the Vraxian home fleet finally found Earth's forces near the border of their core systems, they discovered just how deadly this new weapon was. Admiral Dong-Woo commanded the Earth fleet from his flagship, the Dauntless. 50 Earth warships faced 200 Vraxian vessels. The odds looked impossible. "They're hailing us," his communications officer reported. "Put them through." A Vraxian admiral appeared on screen, his forearms crossed confidently. "Human fleet, you are outgunned and outnumbered. Surrender now, and we may show mercy." Dong-Woo's weathered face showed no emotion. "Mercy? Like the mercy you showed New Busan?" He leaned forward. "Here's our counteroffer. Surrender your fleet, and we'll let your crews live. You have 60 seconds. The Vraxian admiral's face twisted in anger. The transmission cut out. Dong-Woo watched as the enemy fleet advanced in a massive formation, clearly planning to overwhelm the smaller Earth force with pure numbers. "Wait for it," Dong-Woo said quietly. "Let them get close. The Vraxian ships closed to optimal firing range. Their weapons powered up. And then Earth's fleet fired first. The resonance pulses struck home. One by one, Vraxian ships began exploding from within, as their reactor cores shattered. In the first volley, 40 enemy vessels died. The Vraxian formation broke apart in confusion. All ships, free engagement, Dongwu ordered. Show them what Earth's navy can do. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, 173 Vraxian warships were destroyed or disabled. Earth lost 3 ships. The survivors of the Vraxian home fleet fled in disarray. While the fleet won victories in space, Major Yoonhee Song conducted a different kind of operation. Her Ghost Corps team had infiltrated a Vraxian aristocrat gathering on a neutral station. Using stealth technology that bent light around them, they moved invisibly through the elegant halls. In position, Yoonhee whispered into her communicator. Her team had planted listening devices throughout the venue. Within hours, they recorded everything. The Vraxian nobles spoke freely, believing themselves safe. They discussed their true plans for Earth's colonies, not occupation, enslavement. The recordings detailed how they intended to use human labor to mine resources, how they would sell human children to other species, how they viewed Earth as nothing more than livestock to be harvested. Yoonhee felt her stomach turn as she listened. Get this to command. Every word. 12 hours later, Dr. Sang-min Yoon broadcast the recordings across every communication channel in Council space. The galaxy listened in horror as Vraxian aristocrats casually discussed the enslavement of an entire species. Some council members expressed outrage, but most remained silent. A few even suggested the recordings were fake. Despite all evidence to their authenticity, in the council chambers, Velman addressed the crisis. While these recordings are disturbing, they do not justify Earth's continued aggression. We call upon both parties to. The transmission cut out as another message overrode the council's official channel. Dr. Yu-Jin Choi appeared on every screen in council space. People of the galaxy, she began, her voice calm but firm. Earth has activated strategic defense platforms around our territory. These platforms are equipped with kinetic bombardment systems capable of striking any target within 3 light-years with pinpoint accuracy. Any fleet that enters Earth's defensive zone will be destroyed. Any world that launches an attack against Earth or its allies will face retaliation. We didn't want this war, but now that it's here, we will fight it on our terms. Behind her, technical displays showed the platforms activating. Hundreds of them, each carrying enough kinetic energy to devastate a planet's surface. The galaxy recoiled. Kinetic bombardment was considered barbaric, a weapon of extinction events. No civilized species had built such systems in centuries. Thonar stood in the council chamber, his voice shaking with rage. They threaten entire worlds. This is terrorism. No, a small voice said from the back of the chamber. It was a delegate from the Minari, a species that had suffered under Vraxian expansion decades ago. This is deterrence. The humans learned what happens when you rely on the council for protection. They're making sure it never happens again. Emperor Thelkros paced in his palace war room, his advisors cowering around him. How did it come to this? They're one species. One backwards, primitive species. My emperor, his chief military advisor said hesitantly. Perhaps we should consider negotiations. The humans have proven more capable than we anticipated. Our losses are unacceptable, Thelkros roared. We are the Vraxian Empire. We have ruled this sector for 3,000 years. We will not bow to these animals. He pointed at his intelligence chief. Send assassination teams to Earth. Kill their leaders. Cut off the head, and the body dies. The order went out. Elite Vraxian commandos, the best of their special forces, deployed to Earth using stealth ships. They infiltrated past the orbital defenses, landed in remote areas, and began moving toward their targets. They never reached them. Major Unhee's Ghost Corps had been waiting. Earth's intelligence network had intercepted the assassination orders. When the Vraxian teams moved into position, They walked into carefully prepared ambushes. The battles were brief and brutal. Vraxian commandos, trained for centuries in the art of infiltration and assassination, found themselves outmatched by humans who had perfected guerrilla warfare through thousands of years of planetary conflicts. Not a single assassin survived. Commander Tae-won Kim stood over the body of a Vraxian commando, his face expressionless. "Bag them and send them back to the Emperor with a message. Tell him that if he wants Earth's leaders dead, he'll have to do it himself." Captain Hyun-soo received new orders as his fleet regrouped after the Great Battle. They were to push deeper into Vraxian space, targeting not just military installations, but economic infrastructure, mining stations, trade depots, supply lines, everything that kept the Vraxian war machine running. "Sir," his executive officer asked quietly, "isn't this total war? We're destroying their ability to function as a society." Hyun-soo looked at the tactical display showing their next targets. "They started total war when they killed our civilians. We're just finishing it." He turned to his crew. "Make no mistake about what we're doing here. We're not trying to defeat the Vraxians. We're trying to make sure they never threaten anyone again. That means destroying their ability to wage war. Now, and for generations to come." The fleet jumped into hyperspace, heading for the industrial heart of the Vraxian Empire. On Earth, President Hai In-kwan stood before a memorial wall bearing the names of every person who died at New Busan. Her hand traced the engraved letters, stopping at the name of a friend's daughter. 7 years old, Ambassador Ji-woo Park approached quietly. "Madam President, the Council is threatening to send peacekeeping forces to stop us." Hae-in didn't turn around. "Let them try. Let them all try." She finally looked at Ji-woo, and her eyes burned with cold fire. "We gave them a chance to do the right thing. They chose politics over justice. Now they'll learn that some species don't forgive. Some species don't forget, and some species will burn down the entire galaxy before they let bullies go unpunished." The view screen in Earth's command center showed a single planet, Vraxian Prime, the homeworld of the empire that had started this war. Around it, defensive platforms and the remnants of their once mighty fleet struggled to form a coherent defense. Commander Tae-won Kim stood before the display, surrounded by his senior staff. "Status report," he ordered. Admiral Dong-woo pulled up tactical data. "We have 57 warships in position. The Vraxians have maybe 30 combat-capable vessels left, plus their planetary defenses. They're outgunned, but they'll fight hard to protect their homeworld." "Good," Tae-won replied. "Let them fight. Every ship they throw at us is one less we have to hunt down later." He turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel to Vraxian Prime. Let's give them one last chance." The holographic display activated, showing Emperor Thelkros sitting on his ornate throne. Despite the dire situation, he maintained his regal bearing. His silver scales gleamed under the palace lights. "Emperor Thelkros," Tae-won began, his voice formal. "The Earth Defense Force is prepared to cease hostilities under the following conditions. 1. Complete and immediate military surrender of all Vraxian forces. 2. You will stand trial for war crimes against civilian populations. 3. Your empire will pay full reparations to the families of those killed at New Busan. 4. Your military will be reduced to a defensive force incapable of interstellar aggression." Thelkros laughed, the sound echoing through the transmission. "You dare make demands of me? I am the Emperor of the Vraxian people. My lineage stretches back 3,000 years. We have conquered 100 worlds, and you, a species that crawled out of your gravity well barely 2 centuries ago. You think you can dictate terms to me? I take that as a refusal," Tae-won said quietly. "Your forces will break against our defenses," Thelkros continued. "Even if you somehow manage to land troops, you will drown in Vraxian blood before you reach this palace. We are warriors born. You are playing at war." Tae-won's expression didn't change. "We'll see. Commander out." The transmission ended. Tae-won turned to Admiral Dong-woo. "Begin the assault. And send word to Colonel Jin-woo Bei Tell him to prepare his Marines for ground operations. The battle for Vraxian Prime began with a massive orbital bombardment. Earth's warships, equipped with the resonance weapons that had proven so effective, methodically destroyed the defensive platforms. Vraxian ships fought with desperate courage, but they were simply overwhelmed by superior technology and tactics. Captain Hyun-Soo Lee commanded the Indomitable through the thickest fighting. His crew worked with practiced efficiency, every person knowing their role perfectly. Enemy cruiser attempting to ram us, his tactical officer shouted. Evasive maneuvers. Target their reactor core. Hyun-Soo watched calmly as his ship pivoted, dodging the incoming vessel by mere meters. The resonance pulse struck true. The Vraxian cruiser exploded in a brilliant flash. Within 6 hours, Earth controlled Vraxian Prime's orbit. The way was clear for the ground assault. Colonel Jinwoo Bei stood in the troop carrier, surrounded by 5,000 Marines. They were the best Earth had to offer, veterans of a dozen conflicts. But this was different. This was the first time in 800 years that a Galactic Council homeworld had been invaded. Listen up, Jinwoo's voice carried through the cargo bay. The Vraxians think they're warriors. They think their 3,000 years of history makes them superior. Show them what humans can do in a fight. But remember, we're not here for revenge. We're here for justice. Military targets only. Anyone who harms civilians answers to me. Understood? Sir, yes sir. The Marines responded in unison. The dropships fell through Vraxian Prime's atmosphere like meteors. Anti-aircraft fire filled the sky, but Earth's countermeasures kept most of the Marines safe. They landed in the capital city, a sprawling metropolis of crystal towers and ancient monuments. The fighting was brutal. Vraxian soldiers, fighting for their homeworld, showed the courage and skill their empire was built upon. But Earth's Marines had something the Vraxians didn't expect: experience fighting on their own terms. Jinwoo led his battalion through the city streets, using buildings for cover, moving in small squads that supported each other. The Vraxians fought in traditional formations, presenting organized resistance. Against a conventional enemy, their tactics would have worked. Against humans who had spent 10,000 years fighting each other, they were predictable. Suppress that position, Jinwoo ordered. A squad laid down, covering fire while another flanked around. The Vraxian defenders fell back, confused by tactics they had never encountered. Back at the Galactic Council, the emergency session had been running for 3 days straight. Representatives watched in horror as Earth's forces fought through Vraxian Prime streets. The images were broadcast across the galaxy, showing something no one thought possible: a council founding member being conquered. This must stop, a delegate shouted. We must intervene. Velmon's tentacles hung limp with exhaustion. How? Earth has made it clear they will fire upon any fleet that interferes. They have the weapons to back up that threat. What would you have us do? Send diplomats, another voice suggested. Negotiate a ceasefire. Before anyone could respond, the main view screen activated. Dr. Mi-Young Lim, Earth's chief xenobiologist, appeared. Her face was serious. Members of the Galactic Council, she began. We have developed a biological agent that targets Vraxian cloning facilities. The Vraxian Empire reproduces exclusively through artificial cloning. This agent will render their cloning technology inoperable for at least 50 years. We are prepared to deploy this weapon if the Emperor does not surrender within 24 hours. The chamber fell silent. Biological warfare was banned under every council treaty. It was considered the ultimate violation of civilized conduct. You cannot, Velmon stammered. This is prohibited. So is genocide, Dr. Lim interrupted. The Emperor had a choice. He could have surrendered. He could have accepted peace terms. He chose to fight. Now, he faces the consequences. We will brand you war criminals, Thonar snarled. You will be hunted across the galaxy. By who? Dr. Lim asked calmly. By you? Your empire is falling as we speak. By the Council? You couldn't stop us before. You can't stop us now. Earth is done asking permission. We're done following rules that everyone else ignores. You want to call us criminals? Fine. But we'll be alive. Our children will be safe. And that's all that matters. The transmission ended. The council sat in stunned silence. In the Imperial Palace on Vraxian Prime, Emperor Thelkros received reports of the biological weapon with shaking hands. His advisors huddled around him, their confidence finally broken. "My Emperor," his military advisor said quietly, "we must consider surrender. If they deploy that weapon, our species will die out within 2 generations. We have no choice." "There is always a choice," Thelkros snarled, but his voice lacked conviction. He had ruled for 70 years, conquering world after world. He had never known defeat. The concept was foreign to him. An explosion rocked the palace. The human forces were getting closer. Major Yoon-hee Song led her Ghost Corps team through the palace's secret tunnels. They had studied the building's layout for weeks. Using intelligence gathered from defectors and hacked databases, they moved like phantoms through the ornate corridors. "Target is 3 levels down," Yoon-hee whispered. "Remember, we take him alive. Command wants him for trial." They encountered the Emperor's elite guards, soldiers who had trained their entire lives to protect their ruler. The fighting was brief and savage. Ghost Corps used stun weapons and non-lethal takedowns where possible, but the guards fought to the death. In the end, 12 of the Empire's finest lay unconscious or dead. Yoon-hee kicked open the door to the throne room. Emperor Thelkros stood alone, holding an ornate ceremonial weapon. He looked at the human soldiers with hate-filled eyes. "You will not take me alive," he declared. "We will," Yoon-hee replied. She raised her weapon. "You can make this easy or hard. Your choice." Thelkros charged. The stun blast hit him mid-stride. He collapsed to the marble floor, his weapon clattering away. Yoon-hee approached cautiously, checking his vital signs. "Target secured," she reported. "Get a transport here now. We're taking him to Earth." 6 months after the destruction of New Busan, Emperor Thelkros stood in a courtroom on Earth. Human judges presided, but observers from neutral council species watched every proceeding. The charges were read: genocide, crimes against civilian populations, violations of warfare conventions. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Evidence was presented in meticulous detail. Testimony from survivors, recordings of military communications, the Emperor's own orders to target civilian centers. Through it all, Thelkros remained silent, his silver scales dulled with age and defeat. The verdict was unanimous: guilty on all counts. The sentence: life imprisonment. As guards led him away, Thelkros finally spoke. "You have won this war, humans. But you have lost something far more important. You have become like us. Ruthless, brutal, willing to do anything to win. Congratulations. You are now the monsters you claim to despise." Commander Taewon Kim, sitting in the gallery, felt the words hit home. He looked at his hands that had ordered the deaths of thousands. The Emperor was right. In a way, they had changed. The question was whether that change was worth the cost. In the Galactic Council, 3 species submitted formal requests for military intervention against Earth. They proposed sending a combined peacekeeping fleet to restore order and prevent further human aggression. The fleet assembled at a neutral point near Council space. 47 warships from 3 different species, all determined to put humanity back in its place. Admiral Dong-woo watched their approach on his tactical displays. Earth's defensive platforms hummed to life. His fleet moved into position. "Send them one warning," he ordered. "Tell them to turn back or be fired upon." The peacekeeping fleet ignored the warning. They advanced, confident in their numbers and righteousness. "Fire," Dongwoo said quietly. The battle lasted 53 minutes. The peacekeeping fleet lost 12 ships before retreating. Earth lost none. The message was clear. Earth could defend itself against anyone, and they were willing to prove it. The Galactic Council chambers felt different now. Empty seats marked where species had withdrawn their representatives. The atmosphere was tense. Fearful, Velmon floated at the center, tentacles moving in slow, defeated patterns. The Council must address the situation with Earth, a delegate from the Korathi species said. They have withdrawn from all Council activities. They refuse our communications. And they continue to build military installations at an alarming rate. What would you have us do? Another delegate asked tiredly. We sent a peacekeeping fleet. They destroyed it. We threatened sanctions. They ignored us. We called them criminals. They didn't care. Earth has made it clear they no longer need or want our approval. Thonar, looking decades older than he had a year ago, stood slowly. His empire was in ruins, his emperor imprisoned on a primitive world. This is what we created, he said, his voice heavy. We allowed aggression to go unpunished. We turned a blind eye to injustice because it was convenient. We taught the humans that council law means nothing. Now we reap what we sowed. Ambassador Ji-Woo Park entered the chamber. It was the first time an Earth representative had appeared in 6 months. The delegates fell silent, watching her walk to Earth's empty seat. Members of the council, Ji-Woo began, her voice clear and firm. I come to deliver a message from President Kwon and the government of Earth. Effective immediately, Earth is withdrawing from the Galactic Council. We will maintain embassies for trade and cultural exchange, but we will no longer participate in council governance. You cannot simply leave, Velmon protested. There are procedures, protocols. Protocols? Ji-Woo's voice hardened. Where were your protocols when New Busan burned? Where were your procedures when 47,000 of our people died? Ji-Woo's. She looked around the chamber. Earth joined this council, believing in cooperation, in mutual defense, in civilized conduct. You showed us those were just pretty words, so we're done pretending. She pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's territory. Defense platforms ringed every human world. Fleets patrolled the borders. Advanced sensor networks monitored all approaches. This is Earth's new policy, Ji-Woo continued. Our space is sovereign. Any unauthorized vessel that enters will be warned once, then destroyed. We will trade with those who wish to trade fairly. We will defend ourselves against any threat. But we will not bow. We will not compromise, and we will never again rely on this council for protection. You're creating an empire, a delegate accused. You're becoming exactly what you fought against. No, Ji-Woo replied. We're creating a fortress. There's a difference. We don't want to rule anyone. We don't want to expand. We just want to be left alone. But if anyone threatens us again, we will respond with overwhelming force. That's not a threat. It's a promise. She prepared to leave, then paused. One more thing. Earth is offering protection treaties to any species that wants them. Real protection. Not council words. We will defend our allies as fiercely as we defend ourselves. Applications are already being reviewed. As Ji-Woo left the chamber, whispers spread among the delegates. Several smaller species, those who had suffered under the protection of stronger council members, looked thoughtful. On Earth, in the operations center, Commander Taewon Kim reviewed reports from across human space. Dr. Yoojin Choi stood beside him, her tablet showing the latest technological developments. We've completed the new generation of warships, Yoojin reported. Faster, more powerful, and equipped with weapon systems 2 generations ahead of anything in council space. Production is running at full capacity. How many do we have operational? Taewon asked. 73, with another 20 under construction. By this time next year, we'll have over 200. Taewon nodded slowly. Good. Make sure the council knows those numbers. Let them understand the cost of threatening us. President Hae In-kwon entered, looking tired but determined. The war had aged her, but her resolve remained unshaken. Commander, We've received formal requests from 6 species asking for protection treaties, she said. The Minari, the Kelthans, the Torvians, and 3 others. All of them are smaller species that the Council has failed to protect. What are our terms? Tae-1 asked. Fair trade agreements, mutual defense, and they maintain their sovereignty. We're not building an empire. We're building a coalition of species that refuse to be bullied. Admiral Dongwu approached with more reports. Madam President, we're detecting increased military activity from several Council species. They're building up their fleets. Let them, Heian replied. After what we did to the Vraxians, they're scared. Good. Fear keeps people honest. In a secret location, Captain Subin An commanded Earth's newest project, the Defense Network. Thousands of automated platforms spread across human space, each capable of independent action if the network detected a threat. System check complete, her operations officer reported. All platforms operational, coverage at 97% of predicted threat vectors. Subin studied the displays showing Earth's defensive perimeter. What's our response time if something crosses the border? 30 seconds for automated warnings. 2 minutes for weapon deployment. 5 minutes for fleet response. Not fast enough, Subin decided. I want response time cut to 1 minute for weapons deployment. Any ship that enters our space without authorization should face immediate consequences, not a 5-minute wait. Yes, ma'am. I'll adjust the protocols. Subin looked at the holographic representation of Earth's territory, surrounded by layers of defenses. It was the most fortified space in the known galaxy, and it still didn't feel like enough. Dr. Sungmin Yoon worked in his laboratory, developing the next generation of cyber warfare tools. His virus had crippled the Vraxian military network. Now he was creating something that could do the same to any Council species if needed. The question isn't whether we can hack their systems, he explained to a group of young programmers. We've proven we can. The question is whether we should. Every weapon we create, every capability we develop, changes us. We need to be careful we don't become the thing we fought against. One of the programmers raised her hand. But sir, if we don't develop these weapons, someone else will. And they might not have our restraint. That's the eternal dilemma, Songmin agreed. We build weapons to deter war, but the weapons themselves make war more likely. All we can do is hope our leaders are wise enough to know when to use them and when to show restraint. Major Yoon-hee Song led a training exercise for the Ghost Corps. New recruits learned the tactics that had proven so effective against the Vraxians. But Yoon-hee made sure they understood the cost. Every kill has a consequence, she told them. Every enemy you eliminate had a family, friends, a life. We don't fight because we enjoy it. We fight because sometimes it's necessary, but never forget the weight of what you're doing. A young recruit asked, Major, do you regret what we did to the Vraxians? Yoon-hee was silent for a long moment. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that the Council failed so badly that we had to take matters into our own hands. But I don't regret protecting our people. Sometimes there are no good choices, only necessary ones. In the Vraxian Empire's remnants, a new government struggled to rebuild. The military had been dismantled, the economy was in ruins. But slowly, carefully, they began to recover. A young Vraxian leader named Kethvor addressed his people via holographic broadcast. Our empire fell because we believed might made right. We thought our strength justified our actions. The humans taught us a painful lesson: there is always someone stronger, always someone more willing to do whatever it takes to win. We must rebuild our society on different principles. Cooperation, not conquest. Trade, not tribute. If we learn from this, perhaps our fall will have meaning. Ambassador Ji-woo Park met with representatives from the 6 species seeking Earth's protection. They gathered in a conference room on a neutral station, away from Council oversight. Earth's offer is simple, Ji-woo explained. We provide military protection against aggression. In return, you maintain fair trade agreements and respect our sovereignty. We will not interfere in your internal affairs. We will not demand tribute. We will not colonize your worlds. We ask only that you stand with us if we're threatened. The Minari delegate, a small insectoid creature, spoke first. Why should we trust you? The council made similar promises and failed to keep them. Because we've proven what we're willing to do to protect our own, Jiwoo replied, and you'll be our own. When the Vraxians attacked New Busan, the council offered thoughts and mediation. When you're attacked, we'll offer warships and marines. The difference is action. The delegates conferred. One by one, they agreed to the terms. The Terran coalition was born. Commander Taewon Kim stood in the memorial hall on New Busan, rebuilt after the devastation. The names of the dead covered the walls, each one a reminder of why Earth had changed so drastically. President Hae In-kwon joined him, both of them looking at the memorial in silence. Was it worth it? She asked quietly. Everything we did, everything we became. Taewon didn't answer immediately. I don't know, he finally said. We saved ourselves. We protected our people. We made sure no one will threaten us lightly again. But we also became something darker. More brutal. Less innocent. The council calls us warmongers, Hae-in said. Let them, Taewon replied. Better to be feared and safe than liked and dead. They stood in silence, surrounded by the names of those who couldn't be saved. Outside, Earth's new fleet patrolled the skies. Defense platforms watched every approach. The galaxy had learned a new lesson. Humanity would not be pushed around. Humanity would not bow. And humanity would never, ever, forgive unpunished aggression. In the Galactic Council chambers, Velman addressed the remaining delegates. We stand at a crossroads, the Arbiter said. For 800 years, this council has maintained peace through diplomacy and compromise. Earth has shown us the failure of that approach. They have demonstrated that sometimes the strong will prey on the weak, regardless of our laws. The question now is, what do we do about it? We adapt, a delegate said. We make the council actually enforce its laws, instead of just talking about them. We learn, another added. Earth didn't want to be warriors. We forced them into it by failing them when they needed us. The discussion continued, but the truth was clear. The galaxy had changed. Earth had changed it. And things would never go back to the way they were. Years later, cadets at Earth's military academy studied the war in their classrooms. They learned the tactics, the strategies, the technologies that had won. But they also learned the cost. Never forget, their instructor told them, that every action has consequences. We won a war, but we also became something we never wanted to be. We're the strongest military power in known space now. That strength is a burden as much as a blessing. Use it wisely. Use it reluctantly. But when you must use it decisively. The cadets nodded, understanding. They were the next generation, born into a humanity that had proven itself in fire and blood. They would carry that legacy forward, for better or worse. In her office, President Hae In-kwon looked out at the stars. Earth's ships moved among them, guardians of a new order. The council that had failed them still existed, diminished, and cautious. The Vraxian Empire had fallen, new alliances had formed, and humanity stood at the center of it all. No longer the newest or weakest species, but one of the most feared. They had wanted to be left in peace. Instead, they had become the sleeping predator that the galaxy now tiptoed around. She thought of New Busan, of the 47,000 who died, of the price paid in blood and innocence. We did what we had to do, she whispered to the darkness. May history judge us fairly. Outside her window, Earth's sun rose on a new era. The age of relying on others for protection was over. The age of human strength had begun, and the galaxy would never forget the lesson of what happens when you push humanity too far. They had wanted to teach Earth about power. Instead, they learned that some species, when threatened, don't retreat. They don't negotiate. They don't compromise. They fight back, and they win.